Hello, I'm so happy I got a hold of you. Yes, Elden Ring is beaten, and we are finally talking about triangle strategy. And spoilers, I'm really enjoying it. I'm about 20 hours in right now, and some of the issues I had with the demo were addressed, some of them weren't. My biggest complaint early on, I don't know if this is because I was coming from Elden Ring on a PS5 with super crisp realized graphics, but when I put on triangle strategy, it looked a little blurry. So much so that I had to look it up. I had to be like, is this an issue with the Switch OLED I got? Is that the reason why this one that I got was, maybe it's defective? No, tried it on my other Switch. It looked the same. I looked up some comments on Reddit. Apparently the game's just running at a lower resolution than than I thought it would, and compared to Octopath. Like, if you look at Octopath Traveler versus this, it is noticeably different. And I can see that being a reason why some people might want to wait for the inevitable PC release or the cross-console release. I don't know. I can tell you that after the first day or so, that went away. And I can't even tell you I notice it now. So maybe it was just one of those things. Or anyways, enough about that. It's funny, this game feels a lot like Final Fantasy Tactics, but in a lot of ways, it has a lot more DNA shared from Tactics Ogre and, ironically enough, Fire Emblem. Like the old school Fire Emblem from, say, 2005. Like, Path of Radiance in this game share a lot of DNA. There's no armor upgrades. You don't do anything else other than level up your character and choose select upgrades that use materials to upgrade it. There aren't job positions either, so each class is its own thing. So that's where it's kind of more like Fire Emblem, where you have the healer class who's going to be the healer, but there's no permadeath. And the units take turns a la Final Fantasy based on a speed metric, so that you can then see on the battlefield who's going to go next, who's going to go after that. So it's a melding. And then back to Tactics Ogre, because it's a very human-based story. There aren't monsters. At least I'm 20 hours in. I haven't seen any monsters yet, other than people, which we'll get to that. But they have mock battles, which is the way you're able to level up your characters outside of the main stories. Because with these type of games, unless you can grind outside like Final Fantasy Tactics or the way Path of Radiance allowed you to give experience to people who weren't in battles, or the way some RPGs just give everyone experience based on the battle, or you can grind in scenarios. This one has more of a Tactics Ogre where it'll let you do kind of mock battles, but instead of doing the mock battle against yourself where you're fighting yourself, it gives you actual opponents. So I appreciate that. And the leveling system is pretty quick. It's always 100 XP to go level up, and you can kind of cheese the system using some of the more extraneous abilities for some of the non-combat people, and the combat people are the ones that are always going to be your front lines anyways. Loving the game, though. Loving the game. It seemed at first like the choices you were making didn't really have much of an effect. As far as what happens is you do this thing called the scales of conviction, where 7 people vote, and it's always 3 people want to do it, 3 people want to do the other option, and there's 1 undecided. And the first 2 times I did it, the undecided person's the one who swung the vote, and of course you go and you try and convince them based on evidence you find which way to vote. And then they voted the way I wanted. Well, the next time, that didn't happen. They actually went against what I wanted. And then the time after that, I actually wanted to go one way. I convinced one person not to go that way, but because I was just trying to talk to everyone that time and see what happened, because it was the decisions get tough. Like, decisions get tough about what's right to do. And it ended up going the other way again. And then the story progresses from there, and you can see it in the options. It shows the different story branching paths. So I could see myself playing this again, especially if the New Game Plus mode keeps your characters leveled and keeps the upgrades there, because it is very intriguing and very interesting combat. I'm playing on normal mode. I maybe should have put it on hard mode, but it has just enough challenge where I'm getting through some of these fights. You'll start with 10 people. I'm making it to the end, but I have 4 or 5 left. So some of them are pretty tough. I had one scenario where I was in an arena where all the guys kept hitting me off the arena into this floor of spikes, and I was like, in the beginning of that, I'm thinking, man, am I going to make it out of this? I might have to restart it, but managed to get through, because there's a lot of ways of getting around it. The items are useful. Everyone can use the items. You can heal yourself with it, or you get these stones you can throw for fire damage, ice damage, electric damage, and I actually found them useful and used them. Like, I've been using my items a lot, because you have to rely on what you have. Money is constantly at a premium. Upgrades are constantly at a premium. Every one of your decisions matters. You can't just go willy-nilly into it. The upgrading classes matters. And it's all so condensed where you still feel like you have the ability to customize, but you're customizing based on known entities, which is thrilling. Because I'm not having to go and be like, oh, this guy's going to be my cavalryman, and the reason why is because I decided he'll be my cavalryman. No, this guy's a cavalryman. This is how I'll use him. I'm going to upgrade him that way. This is my healer. They're just going to be a healer. I don't need him to also be a tank. This person's a tank. I can make him more tanky, or I can make him more DPS. Like that's a decision I like. But all in all, fantastic. And then the story is surprisingly good. Better than I thought it would be. Surprisingly good. It factors around these 3 different kingdoms, which each one is interesting. You have a kingdom of Glenbrook, which is you're the high house of, and there's all this backstory about the Salt Iron War, which is kind of... It makes it seem like the house you are, House Wolfort, has been in charge as the top house of the Kingdom of Glenbrook forever, eons. Especially in this area it's a very feudal society. It's all by birthright, so the power goes to the next generation. But you've only been a high house for 30 years. Before that, you were some unknown. But you have incredible power. You went to the Hyzant Kingdom, and then after going to the Hyzant Kingdom, you then matched up with Glenbrook, and then ended the... I don't know. Anyways... Back to the main thing. So Glenbrook is very feudal. And then the Aspfrost claims to be more of a... Aspfrost is the people in the north. They're the guys who go for the iron. They claim to be more about freedom, but really, in reality, it seems to be more of a military dictatorship. And then Hyzant, which is the place that has... It's very religious, but it's a very religious, almost... oppressive cult-like area where they have control of salt, and they're the Holy Kingdom, and they're the only ones that control the salt, but they're very communistic. But then they also subjugate this class of people called the Roselles, which they then use to mine the salt. And so all those people are treated essentially like whipping dogs. Like you'll see one of the guys just murder one of them in cold blood. And there's more to it than that. Like, there's a reason why they're like that, but that's kind of the dynamic of this world. So you have the feudal society versus the dictatorship versus the communist society, and then how the all intertwinings work. The feudalist society has the 3 high houses. You have the House Wolfort, which was instrumental in the Salt Iron War. Then you have the House Falks, which is kind of like a like dumb warriors, and then the House Telior, which is a snake in the grass who go whichever way the wind blows. And this is where the Game of Thrones influence kind of takes place in, but at least in the story path I found, I haven't really seen much of this elsewhere. I mean, the Communist Kingdom has the Saintly Seven, but you really, at least the way I've only dealt with one of them, and then in my playthrough, I don't want to get into that because there's a lot of spoilers. There's a lot of different variations on the story, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing where it goes. And at the point I'm at, like I said, I'm 20 hours in. I heard the game's about 50 hours or so I can only imagine how much time is left, but based on where I'm at right now, I think that chapter 12, it seems like things are coming to a head, but we'll see. Anyways, combat is very good. Combat is very, very well measured. Everything I thought from the demo is still true. Yeah, it's annoying that they kick you out of the story scenes and then you're constantly clicking into it. There's a rhythm to it. You have exploration, kick out to the main map, and then scales of conviction, kick out to the main map, and then attack phases. Those seem to be then sometimes story phases. And then the green ones are optional, but you want to see the green ones because they really fill in the blanks of what's going on. And even the notes you find are interesting. Like, I usually never read any of the backstory, but I've actually been very interested in reading up on this kingdom and reading up on kind of the background of what's going on. And it's very smartly designed. Combat is wonderful. I like the limitations of it, and I like the lack of punishment. No permadeath, which is nice, but it has the measuredness of it, and everything still feels weighted. Because if you lose your healer in the middle of your battle, like that's what happened to me on that arena fight, is I lost my healer, first unit I lost. I'm like, oh god, what am I going to do? Gotta rely on the items now. And each one of the classes that they have are unique. Now, it's a little boring the way they just show up at your camp, but hey, it is what it is. I enjoy this kind of encampment much more than something like in Fire Emblem Three Houses where you're constantly having to run through a 3D map and see all this other BS. Like, no BS in this. You have a circle, everyone's in there, they don't really change their dialogue much, and then it prompts you when there's a new mock battle, it prompts you when there's a new thing you can see, because that's like the old Fire Emblem where the more you fight with certain troops, they start having story beats between themselves, and then you find out more story beats about their past lives. Like Huet, the Hawk Rider, you find out why she's so vehemently loyal to Roland, the young prince. The more you fight with her, you eventually find this out when she's talking to Eridor, the shield dude. And it's nice. It's a nice way of doing it. That's how Path of Radiance was, where you have the two units start being friends, and you're not focusing on them getting married. It's just more supplemental story. So I'm enjoying it. Really like it. It's such a different game than Elden Ring, but it is more my jam, and it's what I traditionally like. But man, Game of the Year this year is going to be tough. We'll see. But I'm enjoying it. I'm not going to get 140 hours in this game, I don't think. But yeah, that's my early thoughts on Triangle Strategy. Great game, well worth your pickup. And other than that blurriness issue and a couple of minor quibbles, I'm loving it. All right, guys. So nice getting a hold of you. Take care.
I'll keep on then.
An honor and a privilege to serve.